Hello everybody, Adam Nicholas here for What Culture Wrestling, and we are fresh off the back of Survivor Series and, of course, NXT TakeOver War Games that was the night before. A fantastic weekend of wrestling if you're into that sort of thing. I know some people like the brand warfare, some people don't like the brand warfare, but one thing we all definitely like is some lovely attires. And as you can imagine, the through line for most of this was brand warfare, which meant coloured attires for everyone, wearing those lovely Raw and SmackDown t-shirts and the caps that Cesaro enjoys wearing. Love those caps, and Kairi Sane, to be fair to her. But most people were in red if they were on Raw, they were in blue if they were on SmackDown, or they were in black, gold and yellow, to be fair, if they were on NXT. Or maybe you were Keith Lee and you just put turquoise on because why the hell not? You're Keith Lee. Anyway, as you can imagine, with it being a big 4 pay-per-view and all that, putting some lists together for this one wasn't exactly very difficult because most people tend to bring their A game when it really matters. My name is Adam Nicholas, and these are 10 hidden meanings behind WWE Survivor Series 2019 attires. Number 10. Tooting their own fallen trumpet. Now, the New Day are a fairly bankable set of boys when it comes to these lists because they always have attires on that are full of colour, full of meaning, and full of, well, an everlasting memory for you and me, to be quite perfectly honest. Not shy of taking influence from the likes of film, television, video games, but this one in particular had a bit of a personal meaning when it came to their fallen comrade, Xavier Woods, who was obviously out with injury at the moment. The SmackDown Tag Team Champions made a subtle nod to their brother-in-arms, Xavier Woods, with the armbands that read X and W on them. That was the subtle approach, but the not-so-subtle approach, of course, was literally everything else they were wearing, and it was bloody good. Courtesy of a long-time New Day collaborator and, of course, friend of the channel, Jonathan Davenport. Hello again, sir. You must be sick of being on this list by now. But then again, when you keep making gear that's this good, how can we not put you on the list? Xavier Woods and his channel Up, Up, Down, Down featured on the New Day's gear, and to be honest, what better way to really hold that candle up for a guy who, to be fair, is probably having a really good time not wrestling at this moment with all the streaming and stuff he does, but I'm sure would have loved to help the boys out at Survivor Series. Number 9, AEW's Bayley. Now, admittedly, I will say this, I'm not entirely sure what the SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley was going for with her entrance attire. I don't mean that in a negative way, I just mean my brain isn't clever enough to figure it out. I was getting hints of Cleopatra, I was getting hints of Cher, and I was also getting hints of, for those of you who may be UK television watchers back in the day, Mystic Meg, actually. And for our friends across the pond in America, Mystic Meg was a TV psychic who used to predict the lottery numbers. That is not a joke, that is British television for you. Somewhat more significantly, however, Bayley and her brand new attitude walked like an Egyptian down to the ring. Do you see what I did there? And she was sporting her title around her waist with her new ring gear, of course, all blue and looking very SmackDown-y. But for anybody who's been following the sort of wrestling goings-on online, you'll realise that it's not a very often occasion that we get to see Bayley wearing that title down the middle, because most of the time, AEW tends to be represented on the middle of her gear. Now, yes, of course, wild conjecture and speculation, and we may have done a video about it for those clicks, but either way, you can't deny WWE have been very, very careful about having this exact look until Survivor Series, that is. The Big 4 pay-per-view, where they essentially advertise AEW for free. Number 8, Rey Mysterio's Joker. Now, whenever WWE's King of Mystery and resident superhero and comic book lover Rey Mysterio is set for a match at a big pay-per-view, a small pay-per-view, or just a house show sometimes, you know for a fact he's going to bring out some attire that is probably going to pop your little socks off. Now, for the Luchador's big match with Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship, no less, in what's been arguably one of the best feuds on WWE this last month, you might question his mentality going into this one because, for all intents and purposes, he came out looking like a clown. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, well, Adam, he was doing a homage to Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, which is what we're told it was meant to look like. But for me, and quite a large portion of Twitter, actually, we all couldn't wonder why, when challenging for the WWE Championship, Rey Mysterio had decided to channel Doink the Clown. But despite the similarities to Mr. Doink, of course, the big giveaway was Rey Mysterio's attire as he was walking down to the ring with the big red jacket-looking thing he had on and the yellow suspenders, which kind of felt like almost the Hail Mary that saved this from being one of the weirdest choices in the world. But then again, Rey Mysterio has had some funnier ones in the past. When he gets it right, he gets it right. When he gets it wrong, he wears a skin-coloured one on SmackDown, and it just looks weird. Number 7, Little Red Ricochet Hood. Now, in a fairly on the nose doesn't quite feel like the right term, in your face, around your body and entire aura kind of way. WWE are desperate for you, yes you in there, to believe that Ricochet is a superhero, and they want to give you every clue possible that that is the case. God forbid, of course, they could just let his in-ring ability, which is superhuman-like at best, do the talking, but they want you to know, so they've encouraged him profusely to wear more of those things he wore at SummerSlam. You know, a full bodysuit of Nightwing. And contrary to almost everything else you know about Vince McMahon, who loves a guy who has a good-looking physique and is a body guy and has 900 abs down the middle, they're going to pursue this again, it would seem. But of course, the blue tint that we see on Nightwing's attire that was sported at SummerSlam probably wasn't going to cut it for Survivor Series, given the fact that Ricochet this time round was working for Monday Night Raw. So a change of attire was needed, but of course, we got to keep it in the family. And to be fair, what better way for Ricochet to do that than to turn up in Chicago dressed as Dick Grayson's successor, the crimson-masked Red Hood. And for those of you who aren't familiar with DC Comics, I'm not referring to the little girl who likes to chop up wolves in her spare time, Little Red Riding Hood, of course. I am talking about a DC Comics character, Jason Todd, who died and then came back to life and was all full of the Red Hood and crimson-y goodness and causing havoc in Gotham City just because, well, because you could. What would you do if you were dead and you came back to life? Number 6, Adam Cole's taped ribs. Now yes, you got me, fair enough, guilty. You have completely sussed it. This is not technically an attire. I guess this is more of a bandage or an addition to his body per se, but it does come with some significance. Now, WWE don't have a great history with keeping up things that happened on NXT on WWE television, but it seems like last night, Adam Cole was the rule-proving exception, and he happens to just have taken those tape ribs because of all of the absolute disaster and tragedy and, near-death experiences that he had at TakeOver War Games just one night prior to this. After having taken a horrendous fall off the top of a cage, courtesy of Tommaso Ciampa's air raid through 2 tables no less onto the ground below, Adam Cole, it's fair to say, was not at 100%. And he actually came out to the ring. WWE acknowledged this and had him come out of the ring limping down in all kinds of pain, as you can imagine you would be. And I know it sounds daft, but like, the tiny little things, selling, it's a good thing. WWE did this. It's not like them at all. Number 5, a whole sea of blue and red and yellow, I guess. Now, for anyone who was watching SmackDown on Friday, you'll have seen that Michael Cole rather idiotically exclaimed, "It's a whole sea of blue," as SmackDown came running down to fend off Raw, who were trying to invade on their show. And that, well, you know, it's very Michael Cole to say the least. Now, yes, admittedly, I don't think you're going to need a magnifying glass to find the hidden meaning in some of these coloured attires that we had going on at Survivor Series last night. As we've mentioned prior to this, in the introduction to this very video, it was a whole sea of blue, a sea of red, a sea of yellow for the respective brands. But that doesn't make it any less delicious. I mean, just look at AJ Styles in the club in their black and red combos. Just look at Shinsuke Nakamura in his all blue catsuit. Just look at Shayna Baszler in her black and gold outfit. But we'll get to that in a second. Whether you love brand warfare or you absolutely hate it, one thing you can't deny was this year, it was a lot more difficult than previous years to remember who exactly was on what show. So whether or not we like it, whether or not we want it, this was very much needed, and it was actually a big help. Number 4, the original bro. It's fair to say that when it comes to Matt Riddle, there's a very small margin for what exactly he can do to his attire to make it feel a little bit different, a little bit fancier. I mean, yes, he gets that lovely jacket and hat and flip-flop combination on the way to the ring, but once he gets in there, it's pretty much just the boxers. No tape, no knee pads, no nothing. Just the boxers. But one thing that is by no means a brand new thing, of course, but something that absolutely hits the nail on the head every single time is bro emblazoned across his midriff, but of course, in the NXT font. The combination of the logo with the multicolored effort from Riddle's delicious trunks this time around for Survivor Series 2019, you know what? It might not be new, the logo might be old, but I tell you what, if it ain't broke, broke, don't fix it. Number 3, the AST of NXT. Now, while Bianca Belair is a fantastic athlete with a background in gymnastics, I don't think you had to do any mental gymnastics or any form of gymnastics, to be honest, to figure out what exactly was going on with her attire at Survivor Series. The Fresh Princess of Bel-Air has many fantastic NXT TakeOver attires to her name in her trophy cabinet, all of which, I should point out, she makes herself, or so she says. I don't know if that's still the case, but she did say that once, so I'm going to go with it. But there were absolutely no questions regarding where Bianca Belair's loyalties lay on Sunday night, because she had an entire outfit emblazoned with the NXT logo. Not so subtle, but I tell you what, why should you make it subtle when you really want to hammer that message home? And I guess if you get on her nerves, she might just whoosh, whip you with her hair. Number 2, Air Rollins. Seth Rollins in 2015 was the GOAT, that's GOAT for all the bad spellers out there, and he had my heart, it's fair to say. He was wonderful, he was a delight to watch. Colby Lopez, however, in 2019 is a DORK, and he'd be lucky if he got one of my farts. Now, I don't think it's any coincidence at all that the man who once proclaimed himself to be the best wrestler on the planet, his words, I should point out, not mine, tried to emulate one of the other best to ever do it on the planet, and also pander to the Chicago audience at the same time by completely tailoring his attire to that of one Mr. Michael Jordan. As a member of Team Raw, obviously wearing red already, Rollins decided to use the Chicago Bulls and their logo and branding in general as the inspiration for his attire. All red with blue hints and the number 23 for Michael Jordan on the jacket. That's the way to do it, Seth. Pander to the fans by proclaiming yourself to be in the same league as one of the best in the world at what he did, and they might just cheer you. Yeah, sure. And while the jacket was a very nice touch, the best part, the best tribute that could possibly have been paid from Seth Rollins to Michael Jordan was him getting absolutely slam dunked by Keith Lee and pinned in the match and eliminated from the Survivor Series team. Bask in his glory. And number 1, an army of spades. To win all great wars, you need a great army, and to have a great army and have that be successful, you need a great leader. And what better leader to lead the black and gold brand, the clue's literally in the name, gold is in the name, than the Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler. Now, while her attire for Survivor Series was actually the attire she used for NXT TakeOver War Games, the message and the theme was no different. It was very simple. She is the leader of the team, and as such, she had the words Queen's Army emblazoned across her top, as always, but just a little bit more relevant this time round, don't you think? And would you believe it, it's like bloody buses. First of all, you got Adam Cole being allowed to sell an injury from his NXT TakeOver pay-per-view, and then you've got Shayna Baszler being allowed, and Rhea Ripley to be fair to her as well, but mostly Shayna Baszler, let's focus on her for the time being, actually being allowed to be her very good self on WWE TV. And would you believe it, spoiler alert, wherever you may be, get the big W, and as a massive fan personally of NXT, who better to lead them to victory against the brands of Raw and SmackDown than the Queen of Spades herself, Shayna Baszler. Nobody. That's who, but you know, probably could have done without her getting beat up at the end of the show. I guess I've got to take the rough with the smooth, haven't I? Anyway, there you have it. Those are your 10 hidden meanings, or not so hidden meanings, depending on your IQ level, behind WWE Survivor Series 2019 attires. Now, as always, I'm sure we've missed a few. Let us know about them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and share. Hit the old subscribe button if you haven't already. You can find the original article for this by Benjamin Richardson at whatculture.com/WWE. You can follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. You can follow me on Twitter if you feel that way inclined at It's Adam Nicholas, or if you just want me to shut up and watch some more videos, then guess what? There should be some just over here. I'm Adam Nicholas, and I'll see you next time.